I'm going to break with chronology and begin our exploration of Rome with images from Pompeii, which means images from the early empire period. Then I'll backtrack and compare Republican culture and art to the art of the early empire. The video clip offers a quick introduction to the eruption of Vesuvius. When I showed you the famous mask and coffin of King Tut, I mentioned that he was only a minor teenage pharaoh and that his temple probably only yielded what the Egyptians would have considered a second-class hall. And still, the loot boggles our imagination. The same is almost certainly true of Pompeii and its relationship to lost artifacts from ancient Rome. This city on the outskirts of Rome had prominent and wealthy citizens, but it was really a suburb. What makes the finds at Pompeii so incredible is the window they open to ordinary Roman life. Roman families, Roman homes, and the world revealed by the best preserved Roman paintings that ironically survived because they were buried in ash for almost 1,000 years until they were unearthed in the 1800s. Later you'll learn about how the works unearthed in Pompeii helped generate a neoclassical revival in European art. My husband and I visited Pompeii in May of 2013. We also climbed to the top of Mount Vesuvius, which fortunately for me, maybe not for you, refrained from erupting. Here are 2 of your 3 required images for the House of the Vetti. And here is the cheat sheet version with labels. I usually try to avoid hyper-busy slides, but I thought that all these arrows and diagrams might prove useful. Let's see if they'll build. The College Board plan of the House of the Vetti does not include labels, so learn these terms, okay? Let's take a visual tour of the House of the Vetti. So, what room that you see on this typical upper-class Roman villa is missing from the House of the Vetti? See if it'll come up. There's no tablinum, no office where the patrons would meet clients. I looked hard, but I didn't see an explanation or even a theory about this. Let's see if we can come up with one. What do we know about the Vetti brothers? We know that the Vetti brothers were very successful freedmen, that is, former slaves who managed to get rich. This entryway fresco, a required work, shows the god Priapus, god of fertility, weighing his rather prominent attributes with money bags. Subtle it's not. Also offering less than subtle hints of the Vetti's wealth are the 2 strong boxes placed prominently in the large atrium so that visitors would be sure to notice them. In other words, the Vetti brothers were social climbers. Roman society and Roman citizenship had become much more open to talent, but it's still unlikely that this duo, however wealthy, would be patrons to numerous clients. So maybe they didn't need an office, but they clearly decorated their home to impress. I'm pretty sure you'll only need to learn about the 4th style Pompeian painting or Roman painting, which is the one that shows up in the House of Vetti's famous Ixion room, a required image. But since 4th style was really a mixture of earlier styles, let's go through the first 3 Roman painting styles very quickly. First style used paint to imitate marble. Trompe d'oeil is another term for that, fool the eye. Second style took illusionism a step further, using architectural features and landscapes to create an illusion of depth in space. You saw from the AP classroom questions, I hope, that the College Board likes to ask about this technique for creating perspective. The third style moved away from illusionism to much flatter paintings with oddly thin and artificial architectural details. Sorry, these building slides confuse me sometimes. And finally, we arrive at the Ixion room of the House of the Vetti. Our 3rd House of the Vetti required image. We don't know for certain what this room was used for, but the most common guess seems to be that it was a triclinium or dining room. Clearly, it was a place where the Vetti brothers entertained and showed off their wealth and taste. In this room, all the styles come together. We see faux or fake marble blocks along the base of the walls, first style. These frame the naturalistic and architectural scenes from the second style with their illusion of depth. Yet these are combined with the large, flat planes of color and exaggeratedly slender columns that we saw in the third style. Do you remember the word for taking a bit of everything from columns A, B, and C? Eclectic. Basically, the paintings in the Ixion room centered on two themes. One was romantic encounters between gods and mortals. The College Board's image set did not include any of these rather graphic paintings. It does include other mythological scenes depicting tales from Theban mythology. Remember that these were painted in the early Roman Empire. As you learned in your reading, Emperor Augustus deliberately tried to evoke classical Greece in the age of Pericles, and he set the style for the period. So Greek stories were fashionable, although the gods apparently used their Roman names. Let's take a quicker look at the two of the paintings that show up in the College Board image of the Ixion room. Here is a very abridged version of the story that this painting is telling. Pentheus in the center opposed the cult of Dionysus, or Bacchus, which was very popular in the city of Thebes. He was, you probably know, the god of wine. As a protest against this highly unpopular view, Pentheus was torn to pieces by women who were involved in the Dionysus-Bacchus cult. Pentheus's mother, as it happens, was one of these women who joined in the merriment, and in her madness and in the frenzy of a Bacchic rite, she didn't recognize her own son. Charming dinner table viewing. This one's less likely to spoil your dinner. Hercules was the son of Jupiter and a mortal woman. He was born in Thebes. Juno, Jupiter's wife, was jealous of this child, so she put serpents into Hercules' cradle. As you see, Hercules succeeded in overpowering the serpents. Note that this painting includes architectural features that give it a sense of depth and framing that recalls earlier wall painting styles. We've already talked about the Alexander mosaic, but I should note now that it was found in a house in Pompeii and was clearly intended to show off the owner's wealth and intellectual pretensions. Remember, it's thought to have been based on a Greek painting. Just for fun, here's a mosaic from what was probably the exercise room of a 4th century Roman villa in Sicily that my husband and I visited in 2013. That's 4th century CE. This image shows up in a lot of local t-shirts. And here's my husband's photo of the entire panel. This is one of the most famous paintings from Pompeii. It shows a husband and wife, and in fact it may have been a marriage portrait. Personally, I find this painting very evocative. These were real people, and chances are their fate as citizens of Pompeii was a tragic one. On to the Roman Republic and the early Roman Empire.